doesn't happen to everyone. You have to take risks and you have to do hard things to be able to get to a point like this. And I worked really hard. I went through a lot of shit to get to that exact moment. And so it just felt so rewarding and like such a payoff.
Are you running a marathon? Oh my god, I could never run a marathon. You sure about that? My god, a marathon is like 42 kilometers, 26 miles. I don't understand those people.
That used to be me, but not anymore. Welcome to the Marathon Podcast. My name is Christian Warwick, aka Warwick Runs on different platforms. Welcome back if you're a regular listener. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. Really, really happy to have you here. I'm sorry about my voice today. I have a little bit of a cold. It's the first time since before the Boston Marathon, so I probably shouldn't really complain much. I've been really, really excited about this podcast for a very long time, and it's great to see that the numbers are growing. But what means the most to me is like when I get messages from you guys telling me that you like the podcast, that you like to listen to it on your runs, and people tagging the Marathon Podcast or Warwick Runs on when you're on your runs or whatever you are doing when you're listening. It does mean a lot. As a podcast host, you kind of end up sitting here by yourself having these conversations with people, and all of those conversations are great, and I obviously like them. It's sometimes hard to know whether or not you as a listener will like it or appreciate it. So please keep sending me those messages, reaching out, or tag me or the Marathon Podcast, and please also reach out if you have any questions, if there are any guests that you want to have on. I've gotten some requests, and I'm working on having them on eventually. So yeah, just want to say thank you before we head into today's episode. At the day of recording this, it's Tuesday, and if people are right, we might hear back from Boston about Boston Marathon today. So if we already heard back at the time of this episode launching, I will probably just touch on this in the next episode, but good luck to everyone who applied for Boston Marathon. I know how hard it is to wait for that cutoff time to be announced and getting that acceptance letter. Personally, I feel fairly safe. I'm not super worried about it, but you never know. I mean, there were 33,000 applicants this year too, so we'll just have to wait and see. And maybe today on Tuesday we'll know, based on last year and the time between registration closing and the acceptance letters being sent out. It might be today or tomorrow. A few weeks back, after Sydney Marathon, I noticed a post on Instagram where I saw this girl who had some mixed feelings about Sydney as a city. And the last time she was there, she was really struggling. And going back to Sydney this year was really hard for her. But she conquered Sydney Marathon. She did really well. She's the first ever female seven major finisher. And I'm really excited to say that we have Kara Dudley on the podcast today. Her story is just very inspiring, really cool to hear how she got into running, coming from something very different, and also really inspiring to see how she's used running to kind of just change her life, change other people's lives through her coaching. And I feel like also her approach to running and the way she's looking at things is pretty unique. I really appreciate how Kara was really, there was a lot of really there, sorry, how she was so open about things in this episode. And so I think Kara can introduce herself, share her story better than I can. So let's jump straight to the conversation that I had with her. Kara, welcome to the Marathon Podcast. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm stoked to chat.
Yeah, I before we start talking about anything, I want to hear about Sydney, and you're the first female seventh major finisher, right?
Yeah. So I got my 6th star in Tokyo in 23. Yeah. And then You know what why I thought of it was because that year when the person put, like, the six-star medal on me, they were like, "You're the first woman this year to get 6 stars," and I was like, "Oh, man," and I ran, like, 2:54, like, it wasn't even that fast, really, and, I mean, it's quick, but, there's people running so much faster, and so I kind of got it into my head this year. I knew it was the first time that Sydney was doing this, and I was like, "Oh, I wonder if I could, not run like a crazy fast race, but still be in the top um, female finisher." So that was, just lingering in my head, and that made it worth it to me to come out and to try to race medium well for for Sydney. So yeah, it was a really fun experience.
What does it mean to you to have that title? I mean, it's pretty awesome. There are a lot of people running in the world, and then you have that title. It's pretty cool.
It's so funny because it's like you'd never know, like, there's not necessarily a ranking where, like, you'd see that, like, had to, like, go to some list and, like, compare. Um, it's nice. I didn't grow up running at all. I really never expected myself to be in this position, even remotely. My first marathon, my fastest time was 3:30. It took me years to get to 3:20, and that's pretty quick, I think, for someone that has not
Definitely.
grown up running. But if you would have told me I was gonna be running anything below 3 hours, I would have been absolutely shocked, even a couple of years ago. So, to be at this point, it's just I'm still just like, "What?" Like, it's always gonna be hard to believe, I think for me, but it's really good. I think it's such a source of confidence at this point in my life, and not just the times or anything, but just knowing that I can put, my eyes on a goal and go and achieve that and do what set out to do. And that's the biggest takeaway I think for running for me in general, but this is just like a symbol of that to me and a reminder that like I can do anything I want to do.
I love that. That's a great way to start the podcast. And I want to talk more about Sydney. I want to talk more about your running journey. But before we do, why don't you present yourself, who you are, and also, like I told you before we started recording, I've been looking through your Instagram profile, trying to get to know your journey a little bit. But then I was like, it looks like a pretty cool life that you're living. So I'm curious to hear more about what you're doing when you're not running, and what your life looks like.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm giggling because there's so much to it. There's so many different parts to my life. It's all a lot of it's centered around running for sure, but I live in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. I've been in New York for about 12 years now. I'm from upstate New York, like Buffalo, Niagara Falls area originally. I went to school for dance. I've been in the performing arts my whole life, playing instruments, singing, music, musical theater, dancing, acting. The arts was like so my thing growing up. And I was really bad at sports growing up. Like you wouldn't ask me to be on your like recreational volleyball team to this day. Um, so from Brooklyn, I guess I'm giving a little bit about my life story now, but grew up dancing, I moved here to pursue that stuff, originally dancing and acting, and did it for a few years and pretty quickly realized that it wasn't the lifestyle that I wanted to have. I think, doing that kind of stuff, you have to have something that they call a survival job, which is, I hate the name of that in general, which just means working in a restaurant or having some kind of flexible jobs. You can go and do auditions. And I realized that I was only happy for like 10% of the year when I was getting booked and gigs. And that's so normal, I think, for that career. And I wanted to be happy like 95% of the time instead. So I worked at WeWork for a long time. I managed buildings and huge teams of people there and kind of ran the business of the building. And then during COVID, I knew that I always had such a strong passion for fitness in the way that it was brought to me through dance, I think, and moving my body to feel good. And so I always knew I wanted to do something like that. And I always knew I wanted to help people. And I don't even and I had run a little bit recreationally um previously, and so got really into running and throughout COVID, decided like, okay, I want to be a running coach and started to build that business. And here we are 5 years later that what my life looks like today is living in my dream neighborhood. I think Williamsburg is the best neighborhood in the world. Wouldn't want to live anywhere else. Running my own business as a running coach and having the time and flexibility to really focus on developing myself as a runner. So that's me, in a nutshell, I guess.
That's perfect. I love when I ask like these questions on the pod because obviously I get different answers, but I also feel like that lays that's the foundation for the rest of the conversation. So that's when you know where you're gonna go. And obviously, I want to start with the dancing and performance art, like because although that is still sport and physical, it's pretty far from running. So how did you kind of make that transition? What was it that really made you realize that, oh, I'm gonna pursue running now? And also how much of your life is still connected to performance art and dance? Do you still do a lot of that?
Yeah, I'm not dancing or anything at this point now. And I'm okay with that. And I think it took me a really long time to be okay with that because it was just what everyone expected me to do my whole life. And I was pretty good at it too. And so I think that was such a core of my identity for so long that it was really hard to kind of like be okay releasing that and, being okay going into a 9 to 5 office job from doing the complete opposite of that for a while. Thankfully, that's not what I'm doing now because I think that was never made to do something like that. But yeah, I think it's so different, but it's so the same to me too. Like I think what I loved about dancing and performing is so ingrained in running. It's like you work really hard. And I think that's the biggest thing. And I think that's why it's like so in my DNA to not only like be good at working hard, but like really enjoying it. Like the showing up in the training is by far my favorite part of this whole thing. And that's what you do in dance. We were in rehearsals, all day, every day for for all of my college career, every moment I wasn't in school growing up. Um, and it's like you got this really long period of time to work hard and to practice it and to get to as perfect as you possibly can. And then sometimes you've just got one shot to have it all come together and to bring out this performance. And to me, running is a performance. It's like you're doing this in front of a lot of people. There's a lot of pressure that you have to deal with. There's so many different factors that have to align with how you feel mentally, with how you're fueling your body. There's just a million things that really have to come together. And I think that's why I was able to make that transition and make it feel like something that's really me and makes me feel really at home. But, growing up, dancing, there's running was looked at as like something you don't do because you don't want to get too muscly. And it's like
Hmm.
was thought, and I think it's like so different than the reality of what I know is now. But I think growing up, it was like running is the opposite of dancing, and you should not do both. And in college, I actually started running to like such a toxic thing to say, but I started running in college to lose some college weight that I had gained, and that was it. And I think it's like how a lot of people maybe start out running.
Yep.
Um, and didn't have a watch, like, had no idea how fast I was running, but I just did it sometimes, and I started to really like it, and, then I moved to New York, and I went through a breakup, which I know is another reason why people start running, and was super depressed, like, I think it wasn't even a long relationship, but it was one of those ones that you're just so messed up from, and it was, like, pretty psychologically abusive, I think, and, so I was just really on my ass by the end of that when it all ended. And it's so unlike me now. If you know me, like I'm the busiest bee where I'm always doing things and can't sit still. And but I literally couldn't get out of bed. Like that's how bad it was for me. And I have an aunt who is a school psychologist, and my mom, I was talking to my mom a lot, and she knew that I was not doing well. Like I was late to work, which is also like so I was every piece of my personality was completely the opposite during this time, and it was such a red flag to my mom and to people around me. And she suggested that I talk to my aunt psychologist, and she knew that I ran a little bit, and she, said a lot of things to me, but the one thing that stuck out that I'll always remember for the rest of my life was she just said, "Get out of bed tomorrow and run 1 mile. And it doesn't matter if you stop, it doesn't matter like how long it takes you, but like go outside and do not come back until you run 1 mile." And that was like literally the first mile of like the rest of my life. And I had no idea.
Well, you're
Um
giving me the chills here.
I know, I just give myself
Yeah.
chills. It's
Oh,
so crazy. It's just like, it was something to do. It was something to work towards. It was something to look forward to and a plan to do it. And I think when it's like, you're gonna be okay, be happy. Like there's so much to look forward to. It's like, okay, what? And now it's like I've created this blueprint for myself of something that I knew I could look forward to and a controlled way to get there. Um, and I had no idea what I was doing. And it's so funny because now it's like most of my friends are running friends, but back then I didn't know anyone that ran. Like it was just me. And so I became like the running girl in my like group of friends, my coworkers. And I went out and bought a pair of shoes. I think this was 9 years ago now. So I guess I was 24, and I just got like the cheapest pair of Nikes that I could find that looked cute, and I printed out like a Hal Higdon plan and just I did exactly what it said. I didn't miss a freaking day. And I got to, and it was a half that I was training for. I was like, let me run a half. And it was if anyone knows New York, it was Rockaway Beach at the end of August, just back and forth on the boardwalk, which is like horrible course, right? It's like so boring. You're just running back and forth and it's extremely hot and you're just exposed. There's no shit. Like I would never do that race. No. But I ran it with my I have an older cousin who Matt, who lived here with me, and he was one of my closest friends, like a big brother to me. He's not in the city anymore, but um he was a runner in school. He was like a track star in school, and he didn't really train for it, and really did, and I ended up beating him.
oh
And
wow.
so and it was, like, such a small race. I think I ran, like, a 1:44. Like, it's so far from, like, what my version of fast is now, but, I think I was, like, 4th female because there was not that many people that signed up for it, but in my head, it was enough to give me the confidence to be like, oh my god, I placed in, like, the top 5 women, and I beat my, like, rock star cousin. Like, I'm amazing.
I love that.
I should keep doing that. Like, it's so funny because, like, again, now, like, I look back and it's, like, kind of hilarious, but in the moment, it gave me enough confidence to be like, "Oh my gosh, I have to keep doing this." And so slowly by slowly, you learn things, you meet people, and here I am now. I don't even remember what the original question was, but dancing, all of that stuff. So that's how I think I've made the leap, and I always find connections back to it now. And even like just I love too that there's such a trend in running of women like getting dressed up and like feeling pretty and fun for races, and that was so not a thing when I first started running. And I feel like I always tried to do that and maybe got like a side eye of like, why is that girl wearing makeup to a race? Like no one was wearing makeup to races in 2018. And so I think that piece of it is really fun, that I feel like I'm like getting dressed up for a performance, like putting on lipstick when I was a little girl going to my dance recital. Like there's
Mhm.
so many pieces of it that just like really uh tie me back to who I feel like I've always been.
I love that. That was a great answer. You answered everything that I asked. So I appreciate that. First of all, I want to say that one of the things that I really appreciate about running that you touched on is that, feeling like you're great by placing fourth or running a 144. It doesn't really matter what the time is. It's all about, uh, you know, being happy about what you did at the time. And that is why so many of us can actually appreciate it. Because if we were to compare ourselves to the best ones, then although you're a fast marathoner, you would still feel slow compared to the best ones, and I would feel slow to the best ones if we kept comparing ourselves to them, right? So I think that whether you are um,
3 hour half marathon runner, or if you are like sub hour half marathoner, or a 2 hour marathon, it doesn't really matter. It's all about, enjoying that, and finding your place, really. And I also love what you were talking about in terms of bringing that identity that you had as a dancer or with performance art over to running, because I felt the same when I stopped my sport at the level that I was at. That, that dream, I didn't stop dreaming about those things. That was still there, and it was very much my identity. So when I stopped sports, it felt like something was really missing. And my fiance, she was also telling me that, like, when I found running, she was like, now you're finally back. You were kind of lost there for a second,
Mhm.
because something is missing. And I think that maybe it's not talked about enough, because regardless of the level you're at, as like when you have a dream that you've been working to reach for so long, and it sounded like you did too, it's hard to first give that up, but also then try to figure out who you are, right? And
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that you found running, and it seems like that is very much who you are now, and that you're happy with that, and makes me happy to hear.
Yeah, totally. Thank you. And just on that note, it's so funny. It's like uh some times that I've run that were much slower were so much more exciting to me than even some of the faster times that I've run. Like, I'll never forget, I was like a 3:30 marathoner for a long time, and I just had this epic dream of running a 3:20. Like, it was all I could think of, and it was for years. It took me like years to be able to run that, and I just thought it was so crazy and like so quick at the time. And uh, actually, Berlin, which is coming up this weekend, but I ran Berlin in like 2020 one, I guess. And I wanted to run a 3:20, and somehow I ran 3:20 in 0 seconds, 3:20 on the dot.
Wow.
And like that was such a dream day. And like I will always look back and remember that as one of my proudest marathon. And I'll never forget that I ran London the next year and I ran 3:02. And like in your mind, you'd be like, oh my God, you must have been so excited. You made a massive leap, like 18 minutes quicker. And I finished and I was like, oh, that's cool. The 3:20 was so much more exciting for me. And it's funny how, like, as you get faster and as your goals change, it doesn't make any goal bigger or smaller based on the time that you're running. It's kind of just like what season of your life were you in? And these big, like, really dreamy goals are sometimes, they change, but there's some that really stand out. And it doesn't matter how far you've come in your journey. Like, those are really important kind of places along the road to give credit to of the different versions of yourself. Yeah.
And I really appreciate you saying this, because I think that a lot of people listening to this, they might have set themselves high goals, and if they ever end up reaching them, then what's to say that they can't run faster at some point, but still enjoying and, just letting that soak in, all of that, those emotions that you probably felt, because maybe you felt like the 302 came to you easier than the 320 did, because 320 was a goal for a longer time or felt more unreal, whatever. It doesn't really matter, but it's yeah, it's really nice that you're emphasizing this, because I think that it's really easy, and I see that, at least myself, with social media, that especially now that I'm in the running space, that I see so many fast marathoners. So I tend to kind of think that, oh, but my marathon time is not good anymore. And then I go into some of my clients and they ask me how my marathon went, and I tell them, and they're like, are you serious? And then I'm getting like a bit of a reality check. It's like, okay, yeah, 2:47 is probably it is a decent marathon, and I'm obviously proud of that. But then I look online and you see this, like, I don't know, other photographers doing like 2:20 marathons, and like, okay, so there's a way to go until
It
I'm there.
never
But
ends.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It really never ends. And that's something that like I will probably always not love about the running world is that there is such a focus on times, and sometimes it's really fun. Like there's some goals that you have, and it's so fun to break these big barriers, like running under 3 and under this, and it's like you can get to a point where it's ruining your experience, and it's like your body doesn't know numbers. Like, your body just knows fitness, and all you can do is run your fitness on the day. And it's really a bummer. And like, as a coach, I see people so many times getting so let down by like a great race, just because it was like the little numbers and the details of things. And it's like, I wish as a culture we could all step away from the obsession with numbers and metrics all the time. And I say this as I'm wearing my running watch, and I also care about numbers, obviously, but it's just so much fun to like let go and let your fitness shine through and just be present on the day. And that was Sydney for me. And maybe this is a great segue of
Yeah.
really leaning into that way of racing and thinking. And I think that's why I enjoyed it so much, because it had nothing to do with numbers for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I want us to kind of build it up to Sydney now in terms of your journey from. Did you say that your first marathon was a 3:30?
332 was my first one.
Yeah, so that's still a very good first marathon. But can you share a little bit more? You did take us through the from 3:30 to 3:20 and 3:02. What was it like from London when you did a 3:02 and up until Sydney? Because Sydney is your PR, right?
Yeah.
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 So what has that journey looked like?
Totally. So, I think I was running around, like I said, like 330 to 320 for a while. I think my first marathon was 2017 and was in that range until like 2021, and didn't think I like really thought like, oh, I'll never get faster than 315. Like, nothing else was really within my sight at all. And I mean, to be really honest, between Berlin and London, was in the midst of going through an ended engagement. I was engaged. And that all sort of fell apart in that range of time. And I don't know. I can't even explain it, but I've seen it in myself, and I've seen it over and over again in friends and in people that I coach, that sometimes when you go through this really massive transformation in your life, you kind of shed all of this like dead weight, and you just completely become like this butterfly version of yourself, of just like stepping into this whole new level of other things in your life. But that translates to running a lot of the times. And like, all of a sudden overnight, it was pretty crazy. It was one summer that this all was kind of happening, that I just started running really fast. and and I don't even remember like thinking it or forcing it. And it's funny because I think like you force things for so long, then there's things like this that happen, and you're like, I don't even know how this happened. Like, here I am though. And so that happened to me. And I think that's when I really leveled up as a runner. And it's not like I was doing anything totally differently. I felt differently about who I was. And I think I was becoming more myself the more that I had shed this older version of me. And, I think that's everything. And running is just, I read this quote once that was like, you run how you feel about yourself, or something like that. And it couldn't be more true. Like, I bet if every single person listening to this like reflected on pictures of them running different marathons, you're like, oh yeah, that makes that makes sense. Um so, I think my superpower with all of this stuff is like, I'm really freaking good at being consistent. Like, I'm showing up every day. I'm doing all of the things, and not to a level of like being like neurotic about it. I think I'm also pretty good at finding the balance. Like, I'm showing up, and that's how you get faster, and that's how these things happen. Like, I said it was overnight, but it wasn't overnight. I was been running for years, right? Like, so I got to the 302, and I think I'd planned to run like 315 on that day, and was like, whoa, okay. So now we're going sub 3, obviously. And so I did that. London was in the fall that year, which is why I did it, because I do everything I can to avoid training in the winter from COVID. And so then a few months later, I ran Tokyo and ran 254, which was my first sub 3. Again, was surprised by myself running that much under 3.
What
Um,
was that like? Doing a sub 3 marathon, what did that feel like?
it was so freaking cool. That was so London was in the fall, and that's when things are kind of falling apart with my engagement, and leaving that apartment, and leaving the dog that I had at that time, and leaving a career behind, and all of that kind of stuff. and I left. Everything sort of ended like end of November of that year of 22, I guess. And then I left the apartment. I had been like traveling a little bit, staying with friends, and I was training really hard. And it's crazy. It's just like I was not treating my body very very well looking back. Like, I was sleeping on my friends' couches. I wasn't sleeping well. I was sleeping, 5 or 6 hours a night. I was drinking more than I usually do because I was going through something. I was eating takeout for every meal. Like, I wasn't, like, taking care of my body in the way, like, I would be able to do now in my life, but I was running really well. And it's not like don't go do all those things intentionally, obviously. Like, it's like that's a way to get injured. But I was feeling better than I'd ever felt because I was so happy and felt so excited about this new life that was ahead of me. Um, and that was just a dream, that whole build and that race too, because I planned to travel for 3 months because I left the apartment, didn't sign a new lease in New York, and I'd always wanted to have a little stint of traveling, like, back to back without having a home base, and, so I had planned this big trip and this big travel after the Tokyo Marathon, and I went there by myself. I was with friends, but I was supposed to go with my ex, and that obviously didn't work out, so um, it was really empowering to go and this happened for me in Sydney too. I have an amazing boyfriend now, but to go by yourself to somewhere else on the planet and do a really hard thing is like one of the most empowering things you can do, I think. Um, so I got out that for there for Tokyo, and I knew I had this like really exciting adventure ahead of me, and I knew I was 100% ready. Like, I was like, I know my body can do this. Like, I'm fit. I'm gonna run under 3. Like, there was I was so confident and so calm because I knew I could do it. And that was enough. Like, I would say Sydney and that race were 2 of, like, the races of a lifetime for me, of just, like, going out there and truly feeling like I was jogging for 25 miles and then pushed really hard for a mile, and that doesn't happen all the time. So it was, yeah, and that was another day that I was just, stunned by what can happen when you show up with the right mindset and with really calm, peaceful insides, and just letting it come through you instead of that kind of like forcing feeling, which I've also done for races. And it sometimes works out well, but it doesn't feel as good. So yeah, so that's when I was like, okay, we're in a totally different, zone right now. Like, anything going below sub 3, it's like if I can do that, like I know I can keep going. I can keep getting quicker and keep following this now. And so now, like, I'm not writing anything off. um so yeah, that race is kind of the start of like a really huge shift for me, I would say, in my running life.
Sorry, I think I lost you there for a second, but I
Oh
did
no.
hear that. No, but I think you're back now. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think
Yep.
you're back. If you
Okay.
said that was a big shift in your running, I think
Yeah.
what I got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah. Um, but like when you do a sub 3 marathon, I feel like you said, it's a shift, but I also feel like that's when you might realize that, oh, I'm amongst some of the fastest. Like you're getting to that level where a lot of, at least women, will start thinking about maybe OTQ, like, things like that, because then you see the potential there. What did it do to your ambitions as a runner after Tokyo?
Yeah, I think the first thing you said, I don't even think about, like, being some of the fastest. Like, that's not ever something that I think about,
Cool.
really, because that's like, and I think it's because it's so not what it's about for me. For me, it's just like me versus me is like the whole thing. It's like I don't care about like, I'm really not. You'd think I'm a competitive person based on everything I'm saying, but I really don't feel like that competitive of a person with others. I feel super competitive with myself. Um, and I've just been so grateful to keep moving the needle for myself, and always shocked and grateful is how I would describe that. Of like, okay, 254. So happy to just be here. 250. Oh my god, I'm so happy. And now 249. It's like I don't. Uh, It'd be cool for me, I'm like, it'd be cool to run 2:45 because that's the old women's OTQ time, and that's kind of where it stops for me. It's like I'm not the kind of person that's setting these, like, insane goals of, like, running the OTQ time. It's like, if I get there, that's awesome, and I'm happy, but I'm taking the little leaps right now is kind of my vibe.
I think that's great. And I love what you're saying about the competing with yourself. It's I think that's what it should be all about. And then it's hard, obviously, for I think for a lot of us, at least for me, it's hard to not get competitive if you find yourself in a situation where you can't compete with others. But I that's also one of the things I really appreciate about especially the marathon distance is that I can't always compete with myself. It doesn't really matter where I place as long as I'm happy with my performance or the time that I like having time goals, but
Yeah.
so but I also, back to what you said about enjoying that experience and not always being too caught up with times. That's what I appreciated about Boston, for instance, that yes, I obviously wanted to run fast, but I don't remember Boston for whatever time I ran. It's the
Mhm.
experience, the people, the vibe, the energy. And I think my dad is a two-time Olympian, and he told me that I remember I always thought it was a lie when I was a kid, but he always told me that, when I look back, I remember the experiences. I remember the trips with my friends, the things that I did. And I was like, yeah, 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 yeah. But I want to go to the Olympics, you know.
That's
but
great.
but 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 now that I'm older, I guess
Mhm.
I see what he means because I definitely appreciate results, but now looking back at my career as an athlete, I do appreciate the trips with my friends more than I appreciate whatever results I had
Mhm.
back then.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Totally, and that's, like, the world majors for me is, like, it's not about the world majors, it's, like, I love traveling, I have such a travel bug, and I've traveled a lot, and I love doing it, and so for me, it's like, "Oh, you're telling me where to go, and I can run a marathon, like, and there's a challenge involved in this?" Like, yes, like, it's kind of like the perfect thing
yeah.
for my brain and what I like doing, yeah.
And on this trip that you were talking about, I'm not sure if and what I'm now referring to is the same trip, but I like one of the things that really caught my attention after the Sydney Marathon this year was the post you made where you were talking about how it was almost a little bit hard to go back to Sydney because the state of mind you were in when you were in Sydney the last time was kind of a very different one and something that you didn't really want to relive, I guess. Yeah, you're much better to explain this than me, but what was that trip that you went on just after Tokyo?
Yeah, so I did Tokyo, so this engagement ended, which I ended, and it was 100% the right thing to do, like, I finished it after, going to couples therapy for 6 months, talking to all of my friends, really taking the time and space to make sure this was the right decision, and it was, and so it ended, and I was on a high, truthfully, like, I had been suffering with this for so long and just been in this state of confusion for the greater part of a year, and so to have released all of that pressure and stress and confusion was like it just sent me on this journey of finding myself, and there's so many positive things in there, right? And so that's what and like I said, I was having an incredible training. Um, I did Tokyo, uh after that, I stayed in Tokyo a little bit, for a couple of weeks or in Japan, and then I flew to the West Coast. I ran the Speed Project, which is where, I ran like 60 miles over the course of a couple of days without sleeping. It's crazy.
Wow,
Um,
that's crazy.
like was surrounded by incredible friends and really inspiring people that whole time. I was in LA with a friend. I went to see my little brother in San Francisco. Um, I was surrounded by people and friends and faces and a lot of things. Like I was always doing something. I was training. I was running races. And that's all I'd done. Really, just had filled my time because that's all I know how to do when I'm going through something is like let's fill up this time with good things, which is such a positive thing. But yeah, after I had run the speed project and stayed with some friends on the West Coast. The next leg of my trip was going to Australia for a couple weeks, going to Bali for a couple of weeks, and then Paris for a month. And all of this was solo. And I'd solo traveled before, but this was obviously a pretty epic, like 2 months of being alone on the other side of the world. So, and I was excited. I wasn't scared. Um, and so I'd left all of the friends and the excitement in California, flew to Sydney, and then immediately was just like, whoa, whoa, what just happened? And I'll never forget it. This sounds like such a dramatic, like movie scene, but this is how it happened. I was in Sydney, and it's disorienting flying to the other side of the world. You're like, where am I? What's going on? Where are my people? And I woke up the next day and I ran um over the bridge to Luna Park, which is just like there's like a Ferris wheel and it's like an amusement park, and it started raining. And I just remember like staring at this like amusement park in the rain in Sydney and just like absolutely sobbing. Like full breakdown. Like, and out of nowhere, by the way. Like, had I cried? For sure. Like, there was hard little moments, but like this was like, oh my God, the weight of all of the decisions of the last year of my life and like the ending of this relationship, which was not the relationship for me, but still someone I was with and loved and cared about for years. And the dog that went with that, the lifestyle, the home, I had a different job. Like, I had left my job to pursue my coaching career full time. So there's just this complete other version of Kara that I had just said goodbye to. And I think that's what I was really mourning, was like what I thought my life was going to be like. And now I've stepped into this like completely different timeline. Um and that just really hit me all at once, and it was so heavy, and it's not something I expected. Like, I was like, "Oh, I'm good. I got it out. I cried. I healed. Like, I'm moving forward now. Now we're in the part where we're having fun and like things are changing and I'm doing good things for myself." And I was so wrong. And I had forgotten that there's like the grieving process of going through an ended, not just relationship, but engagement, and like thinking that you're going to be with someone for the rest of your life is huge and it's massive. And it can feel isolating. Like, there's a lot of people that have gone through breakups. So there is a pretty small part of the world of people that have done this specific thing of ending an engagement. And it felt really lonely. I didn't have anyone that I could talk to that had really gone through that exact same situation. So that whole thing happened, and I was just crying every day. It was crazy. I was like, I'm supposed to be having fun here, and like I did. It was, I enjoyed things, but that's all I could think of when I thought of Sydney and Australia. Like, I was spent 2 weeks like going to beautiful places and crying. And it was such an amazing part of my healing journey. And where I'm at now, like fast forward almost, going on 3 years from that moment, is like I really feel like I grieved the shit out of that situation on that trip. And I would be nowhere close to as healed as I feel now if I had not had that experience of being truly alone and being made and forced to just deal with it and face it. And had I kept living in New York and being surrounded by friends, I don't know that that would have happened. Like, I could have dragged on that process for a lot longer. So I'm really glad it happened, but it was super intense for me. And so, yeah, when I found out that Sydney was a marathon, I was like, fuck, like, I don't want to go back there. Like, I did that and it wasn't fun. And like, please don't make me go back there. Like,
So it was almost like a traumatic thing that you
yeah,
felt like you had to re-experience.
yeah. And I think everyone can, think of something that they can tie a place back
Hmm.
to that feels really traumatic, of just like, and it wasn't even necessarily my mind, really. It was like my body didn't want to go back there. Like, um, so I did it. And I was kind of dragging my feet getting there, and I went to New Zealand first for a few days, and I was stoked about that. And then I got to Sydney this time around, and immediately I was like, I want to get out of here. Like, I literally was was like, can I, after the marathon, like, can I change my flight to like go to Hawaii for a few days on the way home instead. Like I immediately was like had this intense reaction still. And I'm fine, by the way. Like I said, I'm in an incredible relationship. I've fully healed from this. It's pretty amazing, I think, how the body remembers things that like
Mhm.
you might not even really consciously have on your mind, if that makes sense. Um, and so, yeah, everything that happened, it really just felt so beautiful and amazing and like just so meant to be, I think, down to the second, literally, of what happened when I got there. Yeah.
Yes. So when you got there, you did say that you kind of wanted to change your flights back home and all of that. But uh, now knowing that we're gonna talk about that race and how well you did, but n- after that, like, did you feel like you had a turning point during that trip where it was like, oh, I'm actually liking this, I'm okay, or yeah? And if that
Yeah.
had something to do with the race, please just go through the race or the
Yeah.
whole experience.
100%. So I think so my boyfriend is also a runner. He's a 2:25 marathoner. He's like
Wow.
been running his whole life. He's an absolute freak of an athlete.
That's what
Um,
I'm telling you. It's hard to appreciate the times when you do.
I know, I know. I just always feel like I need to let everyone know how cool he is.
Yeah,
Um,
that's great. I love it.
but he's a coach and he's my coach. And this year I'd done a bunch of marathons and I love the marathon. It's what I think I'm the most talented at and enjoy the most. But this year I was like, let me do something that I feel like I'm not very good at, and I think that's the half marathon. I really struggle with the half marathon. It's hard for me. Um, so I wanted to make that my goal this year of doing a bunch of halves and trying to improve at that. And of course, like within the back of my mind, I want to do that in order to get better at marathons. But that was my goal. And so this kind of came out of the blue. Um, there was a time qualifier for to get into Sydney, and I knew I wanted to do the 7 majors. There's a 7th. So I applied and I got in, and I think you could cancel it up to a certain point, and I think it was kind of a cheap bib compared to, like, other marathons, so I was like, "Let me just get it, and, like, if I don't end up doing it, whatever." Um, so, the goal of this year for me is half, so, like, I didn't want to, like, race the marathon, so I was talking with Ned, my boyfriend coach, and we were just like, "Let's just get through the marathon, like, not injured so you can keep training and focusing on halves and all of that." And so, at first, I didn't know honestly, up until, like 2 weeks before, I didn't know if I would, like, easy run the marathon and run, like, a 3:20 or something or 3:15 and, like, just do it to get through it and check it off. Um and I didn't know if I in my mind, it was like either I easy run it or I tried to just, like, run under 3, and then I got it in my head of like, "Oh, maybe I could be the first female 7-star finisher." That would be such a fun, like, side goal. Um, so I wasn't sure, and then, I went on this trip, and my friend Bailey was, just like I was talking to her about this, like, "I don't know what to do about Sydney," and she was like, "You're fit, like, you can run it under 3, and, like, a marathon's gonna be hard no matter what, and you're gonna have to recover from it anyways, so you should just race it." And I was like, "Oh, you're so right." And I was like, "I can't imagine flying to the other side of the world and not trying to, like, make it feel really worth it, I guess." So I was like, "Okay, 2:59, like, I'm pretty sure I can do that." And I was really fit this summer, like, I did a couple of halves in the spring, and then this summer, we were just focusing on high volume and a lot of threshold work. But I was not doing marathon workouts. Like typically in a marathon build, I do like, 12 weeks of big, huge long run workouts and a lot of specific marathon pace, like a typical build. I didn't do any of that. Like I was like doing a lot of easy long runs. I was doing a lot of like moderate stuff. Like I was not marathon ready. So anytime this summer someone would ask me like, "What are you training for?" I would just like laugh and be like, "I don't know." Because I knew I was doing Sydney, but I knew I was doing halves that were later in the fall. So I felt like I wasn't training for anything. I was just like looking for fitness. And so once we decided to pivot into, run Sydney at an effort, like a medium effort. Um, I, Ned gave me, I think, like 2 long run workouts that had marathon pace in it. I only did one 20-mile long run workout before I went and did this. Like, in my mind, I was like, I'm not ready to run a PR marathon. Like, I I knew I was fit, but no part of me thought I was prepared to race a marathon. Um, so I get there, and I think that mentality is, like, what really served me on the day, and something that I kind of can't stop thinking about is, like, how do we replicate that kind of, like, "I don't care," like, uh, I'm 100% confident I can run 2:59 on my worst day. Like, I think I can do that because my PR was 10 minutes faster. Um, and it's a hard course. Sydney is the hardest world major. It's 1,000 feet of elevation gain. So it was just so low pressure for me, truly. And like I said, I'd been in New Zealand for 5 days before, and it was just beautiful. Like, I was felt so just, like, connected to nature and out in the mountains and just experiencing beautiful things.
It's so
And,
beautiful.
oh, it's the best.
Yeah,
Highly
I love New
recommend.
Zealand. I love it.
Yeah.
We were there last year. Just
Really? Oh my
yeah.
god. It's the most beautiful place I've ever been.
Yeah.
So, I got to Sydney, and I was posting a lot on my Instagram, which I usually don't do about goal races, honestly, because I am someone that gets a lot of race anxiety. Like, I put a lot of pressure on myself, and the last marathon I ran before this was the Valencia Marathon. And that's when I was trying to make the leap from 2:54 to sub 2:50, and I was shaking on the start line. Like, I was so nervous, and in my mind, I was like, "I have to do this. If I don't do it, it's the end of the world," kind of feeling. And that's kind of, unfortunately, like, what happens to my brain in most race scenario, and I think that has changed a lot for me this year because I've been working on it intentionally. But, yeah, so but this one was the opposite. I was telling everyone, I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna run 2:59, it's gonna be so fun," and, like, whatever, and, I just came into it so lighthearted, but it was funny because I was standing on the start line, and I was like, "I don't really know what pace I'm about to run in the, like, 2 minutes." Like, I don't know. Like, I was like, "Okay, I'll try and shoot for, like, 6:45s, which is a sub 3 pace on the uphills, and on the downhills, I'll probably be closer to, like, my true marathon pace." And so, we started, and it's a really quick start. It's like a massive downhill. Like, you run Boston, the
Yeah.
downhill at the beginning. It's like even way steeper than that. Um, so I'm going out like at like a 6:05 pace just without trying, because that's what happens on those very steep downhills. And then and all of Sydney, by the way, is rolling like this. It's all like, there's really no flat sections. You're kind of always going up and down. And so, got to a section after the beginning that was like a little bit less dramatic incline, and found myself chilling at 6:30. I was like, okay, I tried to get closer to 6:45. I really tried to slow myself down to that, and, like, couldn't, because after you practice marathon pace for so long, like, I'd been trying to break 2:50 for 2 years, which I should say also. This was, the third marathon that was an attempt, I guess you could say, to run under 2:50. I had tried in New York 2 years ago. I bonked and ran 3:04. I tried in Valencia. I ran 2:50:10. So I'd been practicing this pace for a really long time. It's like so in me. That's all I knew how to find, I guess. So on my watch, I knew that like 6:25 with the GPS discrepancy would put me at maybe sub 2:50. Um, and so I was at 6:30, and I was like, "Great, I'll run a 2:52. That's awesome." I'm super impressed by that as someone who didn't train for this really, and, like, on a hilly course, like, that's
Mhm.
great. So I was just chilling there. I was at 6:30's average pace, like, for most of it. Um, and I felt really comfortable. It felt kind of like a tempo, like a long tempo run. And then I got to and Ned had told me, like, "Okay, treat it like a progression, like, get to 18, and then if you feel great, like, start to pick it up." So I got to 18, and I felt fine. So I started to run, and, and I don't look at my mile splits when I'm running a marathon. I like to try to just get out of my head and, like, only look at the average pace. And so I just see my average pace dropping to like 6:29, 6:28. And when I got to 6:27, I was like, "Oh shit, I think I have to go for this." I was like, okay, I have no choice. I have to go for this." And that this was not on my radar. Like if you would have told me that morning that I was gonna PR, I would have been like, "You're out of your freaking mind." Um, so I get to like 6:27 with maybe like a 5K to go. And in my head, I'm doing the math. I'm like, I think I'd have to drop some like 6 flat miles or something to like get down there. And I did. I didn't know that I was doing that because I'm not looking at my mile splits. But and then it's 6:26 with like I think like 1K to go. And so all I know is like I have to get down to 6:25 in the next like however whatever in 1K. And I still might miss my PR. I might miss running 250. And I have no idea what's gonna happen. All I knew is like run as hard as you freaking can right now. And I did. I think I dropped down to like my mile pace for the last like K. And and there's this amazing picture that's like the front tile of one of my Instagram carousels. That's just me like looking down at my watch like this. And it's like, and I love it so much. I want to frame it
I'm
because
gonna
it's like,
I'm gonna ask you to get. I'm gonna ask you to
yeah.
use that for the cover photo, and then that's
Okay.
the cover photo of the pod, so people
Yeah.
listening to this will see it.
It's so good because it's just like to me that image is a reminder of like anything can happen and like you can surprise yourself and you can reach your wildest dreams because I'm running and I have no idea. I don't have time to look at my watch. I just have to go. And so the second I looked down and saw that I was 2 seconds under 250, I was like, oh my God, this is a dream. It was a dream that I'd had for years, for about 2 years that I was trying to run that fast. And I knew I could do it. It was one of those things where it's like, I know I can do this. I just have to bring it all together. And I missed about 10 seconds last time. It was a little heartbreaking. So this was just the fact that not only it was the time I wanted to achieve, but it also felt so effortless. It really did. Like, I hate saying that because I sound like an asshole, but like, it felt like I was chilling for everything until the last K, and then I was sprinted, and that a marathon's hard. I'm not saying it wasn't hard. A marathon's always hard, but it came to me really easily in a way that like Valencia for me last year when I ran 250/10 felt really hard. Like I was kind of squeezing every ounce out of me the whole time. Like it was really effortful. So this felt so different and on a way harder course. So I think just like being so surprised by my body and it's just like and I always think like how could I have known to run everything perfectly to get 2 seconds under without knowing like intentionally doing that? Like what like universe things had to come together to make that happen? Like I also had a bathroom stop on this course. Like I like I thought it was
In
just really
Sydney,
mhm, yeah.
you did a 249 with a bathroom stop.
Perfectly timed.
Oh
Um,
wow.
it was really, really magical, and it just like the full loop of everything, and I'm, like, not the kind of girl to cry at the end of a marathon, like, but I was just there, like, crying, like, "Oh my god," like, "How full circle is this?" And what an incredible story to, like, close the loop on being here and being on my way to a really good spot, but in a really sad situation and just grieving an old life. And now, who could have known that I would be here today making this happen on the hardest course on a day that I was not prepared to do something like this. And now in my life, it's like I have an amazing life that I'm obsessed with. Like I have the job that I've always thought I'd be so good at, and I'm in charge of my schedule. I love the people that I work with. I love helping people. I get to do that and I have a partner that's like absolutely amazing and like the healthiest relationship I've ever been in. And it's just like the full circleness of it all is really shocking and it's I don't know. I it doesn't happen to everyone. You have to take risks and you have to do hard things to be able to get to a point like this. And I worked really hard. I went through a lot of shit to get to that exact moment. And so it just felt so rewarding and like such a payoff to be able to just like enjoy um, all of the seeds that I've planted for myself over the last couple of years. Yeah.
So when at because I would assume that you leaving Sydney this time, and at some point during this day in Sydney, you kind of maybe shifted in a little bit in terms of like not necessarily wanting to get out of there as soon as possible. So when did you do you remember the moment when you were like, "Oh, okay, I'm fine. I can be here for a couple more days," or
Yeah,
what?
totally. So, couple short side stories. The Airbnb that I had booked for Sydney, I wanted to stay close to the start line, which is in North Sydney. Most people don't do that. They stay like in the downtown. And the host reached out to me and was like, "There's a hole in the ceiling of this apartment, like a massive hole. Like the whole bathroom was a hole." And she was like, "Do you want to stay here, or I can refund you?" And I was like, like this is a day before the marathon. Like I guess I'm doing this. I don't know what else to do." Um, and that's why I thought like, "Oh, do I change my trip? Like, should I see this as a sign to go do something else?" And instead of going somewhere else, I booked myself like a nice room at the Ace Hotel for after the race. So I went to like a really nice, comfortable place afterwards and just was able to like really celebrate myself and kind of indulge a little bit in, you know, just being really present in the experience. And this whole thing happened that so I saw on my watch, I started and stopped it over the mats, and it was 2:49:58, and, my official time was, like, I think it was 2:50:01
Mhm.
on the app, and I'm texting all my friends, like, "Is this the chip time or the gun time?" Like, I assume it's probably the gun time because it like, the clock doesn't lie like that, so, um, you couldn't tell, it didn't like, indicate, so for, like, a day and a half, I'm walking around thinking I ran 2:50:01, and I was like
Oh, so you didn't know. It took you
I
a
didn't
while
know
to
for a
oh,
little
okay.
bit, yeah, and I knew in that moment, but then I was brought back to the reality of, like, "Oh, I missed it again." Um but, so you know that feeling when you're trying to convince yourself that it's okay and that you're happy about something, but you're secretly
Yeah.
just like, "Oh, that stings." And then I found out I emailed them and was like, "What's my chip time?" And then I found out I had run under, like, the next day. So, after that was when I was on a high and I was like, "I wanna, like, live in this moment for as long as possible." And I actually didn't wanna leave. I was like, "I don't I wanna, like, really bask in what this means for me and, like, how this feels of just being truly proud and at peace with myself, by myself." Um, and yeah, it was hard to leave, and I really did kind of to reset that, and, it's by the way, it's hard running a marathon by yourself. My boyfriend's great, he couldn't come for this because we coach a marathon program, and he had to stay back here in New York to do it. So I went alone, and it's like it's hard not having someone with you that you can be like, "I'm so nervous, like, what
Mhm.
should I do about this?" Like, there's kind of no one to put that anxiety on, and so you have to deal with it yourself, and when you're there, everyone's sleeping. When you're there at night thinking like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god, what am I about to do?" So it's like you really have to be able to self-soothe, and that I think is such a amazing quality to be able to have and something that I've been working on in the last few years of my life is really being able to do that, and this is a great moment to be able to feel that. Um, so, just, like, having to be the one that's there for you is so cool. Um, and afterwards, like, you're celebrating with people, but then, like, you're celebrating yourself with yourself, and that is so fucking cool. Like, I went to dinner that night and, like, got a martini and a lot of apps, and, like, you can just absolutely treat yourself and the kind of, like, I don't know, just, like, really empowered sense of, like, pride is such a special feeling, and I really hope that everyone gets to feel that feeling at some point in their life about something because it's, like, it does give you this confidence that bleeds into, like, every single piece of your life. Like, I think I've been permanently changed by this experience. I don't wanna be dramatic about it, but I kinda feel like I'll never be the same as I was before it in different ways of, like, confidence, and then also how I approach races, really. It's like, okay, this worked so much better for me. Like, and I don't think you can always like trick yourself into thinking you're not going to do well. Like, that's not realistic, but it's like for me, someone that does have a lot of experience training and trains at a pretty high level, it's like I can decide like I'm, going to train to be fit for a lot of the year and then decide, "Oh, I feel fit enough, I wanna go run a marathon," and sign up for that in a month or 2 and then go race the marathon without having this super long build, and it's like and something else this showed me is that it's not just like your body doesn't know you're going through like an 18-week marathon training block, it just knows if you're fit or not, so it's like you can just like train to be fit without having to like force yourself into the pressure of like this pace, this time. And the other thing I'll say about the race is like I allowed myself to slow down more than I would have if I was trying to PR. Like if I was trying to PR, I would have really been locked into like 6:25 on my watch the whole time. I ran most of that race at 6:30. Like I would have not allowed myself to really listen to find like the calm in the storm had I been really going for it. So yeah, I really learned a lot about myself in relation to running and racing through this.
I really appreciate that you share this story because I think that a lot of people can relate to, the especially those feelings that you had prior to the race or prior to going to Sydney and after that experience. Like you said, it's hard to explain, although you're in a good place now. There might be some things that will trigger some bad feelings or the trauma that you've experienced before. And so I think it's great that you're sharing this one because maybe it will make it easier for people to kind of push through and do it still because I guess you also could have ended up saying no, I'm not going. I'm just going to stay in New York and
Easily.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I want to thank you for that because I think that's nice. I know myself that I've had a lot of experiences myself where I'm been like, oh, do I really want to go? I remember when I started my business as a filmmaker, I was invited to go to Italy for a trip to film someone, and it was not paid. It was just like, you go, we'll cover everything for you, and you'll come with us for a weekend. And I was not a super brave guy back then, so I was like, I don't know, like going by myself. I don't know anyone. And I remember talking to my mom, and she was like, no, I think you should go. You should go. And I was like, I don't know. And then I ended up saying yes. I was super nervous about it. And that was like, that's what kickstarted my business. And now it's my living, that just doing that, although I was very close to saying no. And I don't know where I would have been today if I didn't say yes to that. So I wanna thank you for that. And I also want to say that, I think a lot of people, whether it's in us, because for you, it feels like you said it's kind of life changing what happened to you in Sydney and that full circle moment. I think a lot of people can also relate to that. Maybe not, maybe it wasn't life changing, but it's still like having that full circle moment where, okay, this really meant something, and this changed me, or this defined who I am today. And I think it's great, and I also really appreciate that about your social media because you're so open, so honest. There's no. It's really cool to see that you're running fast, but I think it's cooler to see how you're running that fast, if that makes sense.
Oh,
So
that's
yeah,
like the best compliment to me. Yeah.
yeah. No, I appreciate that. I I, I want to talk more about also your training because obviously as a coach, you know more or you know a lot about training, and I'm sure you have a philosophy that will be interesting to hear. But before I want to ask you about because I know that you are sponsored by Bandit, right? Or you're a Bandit ambassador. I
Yeah.
I because I was a bit surprised when I went in and saw it. I was like, oh, I didn't know. I knew that they had the unsponsored project, but I didn't know that they had. And I don't know if they have a lot of athletes that they sponsor or ambassadors like that. But can you say something about that and how did you get to be a Is it sponsored or are you an ambassador?
So I've been
What
an
is it defined as?
ambassador in the past. I don't think that they have, like, an official program now, but I
Mhm.
work with them a lot and pretty closely. So my boyfriend and I are co-coaches for their marathon program in the city.
Mhm.
So we run that for them. I'm going there tonight. That we have Wednesday night sessions and Saturday morning sessions, and we do workouts together. So I've done that for the last like 5 seasons with them, and they've always just been really supportive since the beginning. Like we're friends with all those guys now, and they're great. And I joke. Ardith, who's the designer, every time she's given me an outfit to put on my body, I've PR'd. Um, but they've been great about making me feel good. And like I said, that's an important piece for me at least is like really feeling like I look good and I feel confident and I have the gear that works. It's like
Mhm.
there's so many pockets in what they make. It's like I truly couldn't wear anything else for the marathon at this point. So they've been really supportive. I love those guys.
Yeah. Actually, so how will that be? 3 episodes before you. It's 2 days from the day of recording. Tim Ross is actually on. So it's
Oh, I love
yeah.
him. Oh
I
my
was
god.
talking to him last week. So that episode comes out on Friday.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I love talking to him. It's great. He's got a cool story, and I like the work
Yeah.
of Bandit. Okay, so your training, your coaching. I assume that when it comes to your own training, although your boyfriend is coaching you, that it has a lot of the same elements to it as the elements that you're using when you're coaching others.
Mhm.
What would you say that is your philosophy? And what I mean by that is like intensity control and mileage and all of that. What is it that you're focusing the most on?
Yeah, when it comes to the logistics of everything, I think everyone is so different and it's really individualized in what you personally can handle, what you like to do. Some people love doing high mileage. I love running as much as I can. Some people aren't able to do that and have to go to a job at 8 in the morning and don't have the time. And they can have a great training too. And I've worked up to being able to run 7 days a week, and I'll usually run between, like, 70 and 85 miles when I'm training for something weekly, but I've worked up to that for a really long time. I didn't just jump into that overnight, and my body's used to that kind of stimulus now, but I don't think there's one right way to do it by any means. What I really do think matters is the holistic view of things of I think a lot of people focus on the running part of it and then miss out on the fueling side of things, like eating enough carbs before, during, eating enough carbs and protein in all of your meals. Like I think people can miss and overlook how important that piece is. Like you're usually most people when I start working with them are under fueling, even the people that are fueling the most. It's like you need a shit ton of carbs to be able to run fast. So the fueling part, the lifting, I lift twice a week, heavy. I've been doing that for years at this point, and that's why I think I can like recover so well from workouts and from races and be able to run fast and do it without getting injured. Um, and then the mental piece of it, that's something that I'm really obsessed with and I focus on a lot in my training and try to preach about as much as possible. Is like the mental side of running is so important, and it doesn't even matter if you're out here spending hundreds of dollars on carbon plated shoes and a coach and all of the right fueling. It's like you just wasted all of that time and money if you're not thinking about what's happening up here. And that doesn't just come naturally. You can't think your way into being positive, a positive speaker to yourself. Like you have to practice it. Like you have to practice it just like you're going out to practice speed workouts and your marathon pace. It's like I'm constantly reading books and trying to take in material that's working on different mental strategies, thinking about something I did for this one a lot was like a headspace meditation series that they have that's about how to find your flow state and how to intentionally get into a state of flow, which is something you can't do. Like a flow state comes to you, you can't force a flow state, but it focuses on how do you kind of get rid of like the thoughts and be able to just focus in on the task at hand. That was something I've been thinking about a lot recently, but I think the mental side of it is something that's greatly under talked about now, and it's like you can go and find any running influencer and figure out how to put together a marathon plan and whatever and even fuel well, but you can't really do that with, like, mental training, and so that's something that I think is so important, and I can't even like, I can't give that to my athletes all the time. It's like, it's there's some strategies you can use, but it's really a journey that you kinda have to go on for yourself to be interested enough to go out and find these tools and practice them in your own workouts.
What would you say that for you in terms of that, what you're talking about with the mental game of it? Because I do agree with you. There are a lot of ways you can train and a lot of things you can do, but there are things, and not just on race day, but throughout the whole year or any marathon block, right? That mentality or uh, just like a run does isn't always just a run. It's also about the quality of the run, the things you're thinking about or focusing on. What has been your secret? What do you feel like? Yeah, how have you been able to manage that mental part of it?
Yeah, I think for me, a really big unlock was just like, a marathon is long. You're out there for hours. There's going to be things that pop up that are undesirable. There's going to be moments that you're like, oh, this hurts, or like, I'm bored. Like, those things are going to pop up. And I think maybe a less experienced version of myself would have thought, okay, that's it. I feel bad at mile 10. Like, this marathon's over. Like, I'm not going to hit my goal. And now I think I'm able to navigate, like, okay, this thing popped up. Oh, okay, let's just wait a little bit. And I bet I'll feel better, in a few minutes. Or, oh, okay, I'm feeling a little bit low energy. I'm going to take a gel in 5 minutes and then feel better. It's like, almost navigating these things that pop up as not game ending situations, but more of like challenges, and how do I overcome this challenge that's popped up, and just staying really present. It's like the second you start jumping to the end of things, or how do I get to whatever, it's like the present moment is a safe place. I'm okay right now in this moment, and there's freedom in that. And so figuring out how to be inside of the present moment as much as possible is like all that I'm really thinking about these days.
Yeah, I love that.
Mm.
And last question on the training. This is a question that I ask to all the guests that are on, and that is, what does your long run look like?
What do you mean?
So I feel like all runners they have different ways of solving the long run. Some people do it like they're just running easy for 2.5 hours. Some
Okay.
people are running with repeats in there, or they're running it progressively. There are so many ways of doing it, and some people obviously it's not like they're doing the same thing every week. But for you, like, what is a typical long run in say a marathon block? And now I
Yeah,
guess like maybe it's a harder question to answer
I know.
since you did so well with the
Let me give you a
marathon.
favorite. A favorite long run flow for me would be like, here's my dream long run. Wake up at like 8, not too early. Have some Pop Tarts and a black coffee. Start running at like 10. Go to Central Park and do maybe like 6 to 8 miles warm up, and then maybe like 3 by 3 at marathon pace, or a progression. Progressions are probably one of my favorite long run workouts to do. To do a big chunk of some marathon pace in there, either all together or broken up, and maybe progressing as it goes on. And then a 2 mile cool down, lots of gels in there, handheld water bottle, electrolytes, all of that stuff. And hopefully I'm doing it with a person, a running partner. That's probably my favorite version of a long run.
Love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we're at the end of our conversation. It's hard for me to not ask you. You did say that you don't want to compete with others and like that I'm still left with like you're so fast and it seems to be so much potential here. What are your ambitions, goals, or dreams going forward, and what's your next big goal?
Yeah, I think I bet I could have run like a 2:46 on a flat course a couple weeks ago is what's in my head. So I think the next marathon that I go for, I think I'd like to run a 2:45, and in my head I'm like that was a former OTQ time, like who am I? Like I'm a no one that never wanted to be anything like this. Like, I think that would be the ultimate sick thing to do for me right now. Um, so I think that's where my head's at. I'd love to run a 2:45 next year, and I think I can. And I'm thinking about Cape Town. Cape Town Marathon is supposed to be at the next World Major, coming up in May of next year. Uh, so I'm trying to work out how to get a bid for that. So if anyone knows, hit me up. Slide into my DMs.
Yeah. I hope you get it. Have you been to Cape Town before?
No, and it's been on my
Oh,
list for
it's
a
yeah,
long
it's
time. Is it
one
good?
of my
Yeah.
so good. I really fell in love with Cape Town when I was there. It's
Ah,
an amazing city. I really hope that you will get a bib there.
me too. Thank you.
Kara, thank you so much for guesting the Marathon Podcast. Really appreciate how open you've been and how much you've shared. And good luck on your journey and for your half marathons for this year too. It will be fun to see how fast you can be this
Yeah.
fall.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. This is really fun.
Great. Thank you. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
This was just another example of how inspiring these conversations can actually be. Because for me, at least, I'm left thinking about how much running means for me and my life and how it's changed my life. And then hearing Kira talking about this just emphasizes that. Really grateful to Kira for taking the time to do this. I appreciate that everyone that I'm reaching out to are so positive. So thank you, Kara, and thank you for sharing your story. It's really, really fun to see how you are kind of just making progress in life through running. So thank you so much. Really curious to see how fast Kara will be eventually. I mean, she's already a super fast marathoner, and I don't think this is the last we've seen of her. In the next episode, we're going to have a very impressive guy with us. He's done more than 150 marathons. He also did the Sydney Marathon. He's now working on a project of climbing Mount Everest. So I think that this is a very different episode because Frank, who's coming on, is like the kind of person who really makes you consider what you're doing yourself. How can you push yourself a little bit more? At least that's what I was left with after our conversation. So stay tuned for that one. And if you haven't already, please give this podcast a review. And most importantly, share this podcast with a friend or with your followers. I would really appreciate that. And again, thank you for listening to the Marathon Podcast. You'll listen to the Marathon Podcast, brought to you by Wall Studio.